Welcome to Dark Psychology Mastery, where we explore the darker side of human nature. Today, we're going to ask a question that may make you uncomfortable: are you in a toxic relationship? It's a question that can be difficult to confront, but it's essential to consider if you want to protect your mental and emotional well-being. To help us navigate this complex topic, we're joined by the renowned Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis. Freud's work has had a profound impact on our understanding of human psychology, and his insights into the human mind are still widely studied and applied today. As we explore the psychology behind toxic relationships, we'll be drawing on Freud's theories and concepts, including the role of the unconscious mind, the structure of personality, and the dynamics of human relationships. So, let's start by defining what a toxic relationship is. A toxic relationship is a relationship that is damaging to one's emotional, mental, or physical well-being. It can take many forms, from romantic relationships to friendships, family relationships, and even workplace relationships. The common thread that runs through all toxic relationships is the presence of toxic behavior, which can include manipulation, gaslighting, emotional abuse, and even physical abuse. But what drives people to engage in such destructive behavior? And how can we recognize the signs of a toxic relationship? These are the questions we'll be exploring in this video, with the help of Sigmund Freud's expertise and insights. One of the key concepts in understanding toxic relationships is the idea of the ID and the ego. According to Freud, the ID is the primitive, instinctual part of our personality that seeks immediate gratification, while the ego is the rational, logical part of our personality that tries to balance our desires with the demands of reality. In a toxic relationship, the ID is often in control, driving the individual to prioritize their own needs and desires above all else. This can lead to manipulative and exploitative behavior, as the individual seeks to satisfy their own desires without regard for the well-being of others. A classic example of this is the story of Bluebeard, a folk tale about a man who marries a series of women, only to murder them and hide their bodies in a secret room. On the surface, Bluebeard appears to be a charming and charismatic individual, but beneath this facade lies a ruthless and cunning ID that is driven by a desire for power and control. As Freud would argue, Bluebeard's behavior is a classic example of the ID in action, with his ego playing a secondary role in rationalizing and justifying his destructive behavior. But what about the women who marry Bluebeard, despite the warnings and red flags? Why do they stay in the relationship, even when it becomes clear that they are in danger? This is where the concept of trauma bonding comes in, which refers to the strong emotional bond that can form between two individuals in a toxic relationship. This bond is often fueled by intense emotions, such as fear, anxiety, and excitement, which can create a powerful attachment that is difficult to break. So, how does this apply to our understanding of toxic relationships today? One of the key insights from Freud's work is that toxic relationships often involve a deep-seated desire for control and power. This can manifest in different ways, from the overt control of an abuser to the subtle manipulations of a gaslighter. But in all cases, the underlying dynamic is the same: one individual seeks to dominate and control the other, often using tactics such as emotional blackmail, guilt-tripping, and blame-shifting. Another important insight from Freud's work is that toxic relationships often involve a process of introjection, where one individual internalizes the negative attitudes and beliefs of the other. This can lead to a range of negative emotions, including shame, self-doubt, and anxiety, which can be incredibly challenging to overcome. But by recognizing these dynamics and understanding the psychological mechanisms at play, we can start to break free from the toxic patterns that are holding us back. So, what can we do to protect ourselves from toxic relationships? One of the most important things is to develop a strong sense of self-awareness, which involves recognizing our own emotions, needs, and desires. This can help us to identify potential red flags and warning signs, such as a partner who is overly controlling or manipulative. We can also learn to set healthy boundaries, which involves communicating our needs and expectations clearly and assertively. By prioritizing our own emotional and mental well-being, we can create a stronger, more resilient sense of self that is less vulnerable to toxic influences. So, how can we apply these insights in a practical way? One of the most important things is to prioritize self-care and self-compassion. This involves taking care of our physical, emotional, and mental needs, and treating ourselves with kindness and respect. We can also learn to recognize the signs of toxic behavior, such as manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse. By being aware of these dynamics, we can start to develop strategies for protecting ourselves, such as setting boundaries, seeking support from friends and family, and prioritizing our own needs and desires. Another important thing is to develop a growth mindset, which involves embracing challenges and setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning. By adopting a growth mindset, we can start to develop a more resilient and adaptable sense of self, which is less vulnerable to toxic influences. Finally, we can learn to cultivate healthy relationships, which involve mutual respect, trust, and communication. By prioritizing these values and principles, we can create stronger, more positive relationships that support our emotional and mental well-being. So, what's the first step you can take today to start building healthier, more positive relationships? Take a moment to reflect on your own relationships and identify any potential red flags or warning signs. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and compassion, and it's never too late to make a change. In conclusion, toxic relationships are a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that can have a profound impact on our emotional and mental well-being. By understanding the psychological dynamics at play, we can start to break free from the toxic patterns that are holding us back. Remember, you have the power to create positive change in your life, and it starts with developing a deeper understanding of yourself and your relationships. Thanks for watching Dark Psychology Mastery, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos on the psychology of toxic relationships and other dark psychology topics. Join our community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about personal growth and self-improvement, and get ready to unleash your full potential.